Today I'm representing RAP, the Western Regional Advocacy Project, which we're really proud to say D-Hole is a significant part of. Before that, I was asked out in New York and San Francisco, and then worked at the Homeless Coalition, as we called them back in the 80s when we started that shit, in San Francisco for 17 years. We started RAP about 14 years ago because in Skid Row in LA, in Old Town in Portland, in Sacramento, in Oakland, and the Tenderloin in San Francisco, the shit you're about to see is going on everywhere. And the other day, Therese and them called us and said, check out this report by this corporate partnership, talking about how in Skid Row and in San Francisco and in Portland, they ain't sweeping people, they ain't criminalizing people, so therefore, those cities are overrun with houseless people. That's fucking bullshit. And you have to prove it. And disputing a lie is hard. But the criminalization of poor people started long before homelessness. The discriminatory police enforcement started long before 1982. You look at sundown towns, you look at anti-Okie laws, you look at Jim Crow laws, ugly laws. This pattern and practice of saying it's illegal to stand still, that's loitering. It's illegal to sit on a sidewalk in public space, that's blocking the sidewalk. It's illegal to sleep when you don't have a home. That's camping, and you'll see sleeping tickets here, you'll see sweeps here, and it's happening all over. What you all are doing here in Denver is being watched, is being monitored, is being looked at in communities across the West Coast where we're represented, and in communities, I've been talking to pictures of the homeless in New York, they're looking at this shit. You know, we all ran the Right to Rest Act together, simultaneously in our states. You guys are the first ones, and you won't be the last ones, to take that shit to the local level as well, and to build power, because no matter what, whether you win or lose, you're building power, because you're telling the truth, you're speaking truth to racist, classist policies that are connected to neoliberal economics that say, if you can't afford the shit, then you ain't worthy of it. And housing and healthcare and education are not commodities. The healthier and educated our communities are, that benefits the whole fucking community. So why wouldn't it be something government prioritizes? Why do we prioritize jails? They got no shortage of fucking pigs. No. But somehow teachers got 65 kids in certain classrooms, and you go to the boarding schools and they got 12 kids. Why is that shit like that? And all of it with charter schools and all that shit, it's all funded through tax breaks. We do $140 billion a year subsidizing housing for homeowners through the IRS. None of them get toothbrushes counted in their bathrooms to see if somebody isn't on a lease that's staying there. None of them get screened as to whether they're moral enough for a housing subsidy, or whether they ever been to fucking jail after we're criminalizing 3/4 of our population. We say they're not able to access housing if they've been in jail. That's a setup. We're not denying you housing, you're not eligible. I'm telling you, $140 billion a year, homeowners do not get asked not one single one of those fucking questions. If you're eligible, you get it. Imagine if all the people on the waiting list for affordable housing got treated with that same respect. If you need it, you got it. So, when these guys started, I'm sorry, that was a rant, I'm sorry.
That was a good one.
But when these guys started laying the shit out, and this is something that we're going to continue to build off because it's only a couple of days old. But these are the groups that make up our organization. These are the core member groups. That means in order to be a core member, you do street outreach. You don't just talk to the people that come to your meetings. You go out in your community and you talk to everybody. Because if you're going to use the word we, when you're in a rap meeting, you goddamn well better prove it, because the last thing poor people need is another fucking leader. You know, they need laborers. They need people to dig the ditches so we can have a revolution one of these days. And if we're not willing to be the laborers of the revolution, we got no right to work on the revolution. And these groups understand that because they come from the street and they've been doing this shit for a long time. And you can't be organizing in Skid Row and be full of shit. You just can't do it. And they ain't gonna play that game. And so when these guys started putting out this supposed report, saying that this is the reality of what's happening in our communities, that's how we looked at it.
Wait, who are these guys? Tell everybody who these guys are.
These partnership fuckers, I don't remember their name.
Together Denver.
Remy, the Together Denver.
Together Denver hired Remy to do this.
These are
Together
the
Denver's
corporate
got
guys
this.
they hired? Okay. So these are the consultants that got paid a lot of money to lie about our communities.
Yeah.
And when they started talking about the realities in our communities and trying to screw over the Right to Survive Act by distorting and purposefully misrepresenting our communities, spreading this ignorance and this fear and this hatred, we felt like we needed to put together a response. And this is where we call them on what they're talking about. They say in their report, granting unimpeded access to public space, when that's just totally bullshit. They say in their report that these laws aren't being enforced against our communities and people aren't getting swept and hosed down and swept up by the Department of Public Works and having their shit taken. And they say that that's their reality. Well, that is not our reality, and we live there. And this is an intent to try to talk truth to what's actually happening. This is the stuff I was talking about before. 1983 is the advent of contemporary homelessness. Shit might have been funky before that, and we know it was funky before that. But when Hospitality House in the Tenderloin in San Francisco would close at 11 o'clock at night, people went home. In the early 1980s, they were closing at 11 o'clock at night, and people were standing there saying, "We got nowhere to go." Those people didn't create homelessness. They didn't choose to be out on the fucking street. They were always going home when that neighborhood facility closed. It was, you know, they had TV and they had pool and they had ping pong and, you know, it was a hangout place. It wasn't a shelter. They weren't rehabilitating people. It was a neighborhood center that people hung out in that closed at 11 o'clock at night because we're adults. We go home at 11 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden people had nowhere to go, and it became a shelter because of a response to a community crisis. And this is the restoration of that housing funding was never put back. But the numbers of laws that were created to criminalize the presence of poor people tripled, quadrupled over the same period of time. That's what the Right to Survive initiative is combating, and is saying, if I ain't messing with nobody, if I ain't ripping nobody off, if I ain't screwing nobody, you got no fucking right to be calling the police on me, regardless of my housing status.
Yeah.
And this is where I just 16, all right, so I said 1657. Nobody got a coupon or a voucher for answering these questions. Nobody got, and you know, it was neighbor talking to neighbor about what the fuck is going on between them and the police. And do they know somewhere that is safe and legal to sleep at night? Outside of the shelter system. These are people that are outdoors. 74% didn't have a clue where they could go sleep at night without being in danger of getting fucked with by the cops. 74%. And the things they're getting messed with, again, is loitering, sitting, and sleeping. That's just criminal. That should be criminal. These sweeps ain't happening. This is Portland. In 2018, throughout 2018, according to the Portland cops, they were sweeping 42 campsites a week. A week. And there's a whole industry now about mapping us and about tracking where we are and having command centers set up by police departments and checking us out and doing homeless management systems on us. And they're tracking the hell out of it. They're not addressing it, they're tracking it. In Oregon, 224 new anti-homeless laws since the 1980s. Throughout that state, they've passed over 200 laws just to criminalize. And this is where the sitting on a sidewalk comes in. That was never a law before. In LA and in California, we're talking 820 laws have been created over that same period of time. All for the same stuff. LA spends $30 million a year criminalizing the presence of homeless people. What? $30 million a year to destroy, to confiscate over 9,000 tents in the city of LA last year. This is the pattern and practice. And this is a quote in an email that was gotten through Freedom of Information Act, where the cops are saying, we're in the displacement business. Local police departments have homeless people in the streets hiding from them as opposed to protecting them. And we know how vulnerable that makes people.
Yeah.
And when the whole game is to be invisible, that makes you vulnerable. And when we come together as a community, it's called camping or an encampment. We ain't fucking camping. We're surviving. And we're surviving in a way that's going to protect us from the elements. And why is that deemed illegal by people that are in homes protecting themselves from the elements? It makes no sense at all. 1 of 6 arrests in LA was of people that have no housing. 1 in 3 complaints about police incidents of beating people up and excessive force, or 3 people getting shot and killed. 1 in 3 was people that they were rousting because they thought they were homeless. This shit is rampant. And for them to say this shit isn't happening in these communities, the organizers in the city of LA just formed a citywide coalition to stop the sweeps. Because with the advent of business improvement districts, there's now 42 business improvement districts in LA, and the number of anti-homeless laws and the enforcement patterns keeps rising, and people got nowhere to go. And in San Francisco, you see here a ticket. Literally, the cop wrote on the ticket is for sleeping. That, they say being homeless ain't a crime. Being homeless and sitting, standing, or sleeping sure as hell is a crime. So long as you keep walking and walk somewhere else, somehow that's okay. But as soon as you stop walking, whatever you're doing is breaking the law, and that's why we need the Right to Survive ballot initiative to fucking pass, and that's why this whole campaign is so important to a lot of people, even people that aren't in this room today, that don't even live in this state today. This is a vitally important campaign for them as well. You see the police car, you see the headline. I mean, it's the same shit you see the cops doing outreach to the homeless with a shotgun on his back.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's an outreach tool for you. Same thing, you know, a goal that's in this healthy streets thing run by the pigs in San Francisco is the goal is no tents or structures in the city. That's what they call healthy streets. No houseless people, no tents, no structures, then our streets are healthy. If there's any houseless people and they're in tents or structures, then our streets ain't healthy. That's their own fucking document. And here you see, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. We got no shortage of money for the pigs. And they're using this specifically to get rid of, incarcerate, intimidate, just try to get you out of their town. And they have a whole system and a whole setup, 7 days a week, 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., totally designed to create this. Where people used to live is now a big empty space, and so long as nobody's living there anymore, everything's hunky-dory. They say that our shit's creating all of this mess. This is images from Oakland, California, before the sweeps and after the sweeps. Once they came and tore all our shit up and threw all our stuff out, the shit got left behind. And these are the images that you see in the reports, and these are the images that you see on the media. Oh, they swept in Canton, and they show these images of the after they had the sweep, not the images of before they had the sweep. They're the ones that created the mess by destroying people's lives. Thank you very much.
Yeah!